what does that mean?
He's insane.
What made you think he was insane?
Just how he thinks he's God, and he just says all these weird things like we're gonna keep that boy in jail because there's not gonna be any civil or criminal cases come the election, which is just complete insanity.
So you fired him.
Hello YouTube friends, my name is Taiping. Welcome to my channel. If you are new, I hope you will stay around and listen to what I have to say about the interview Kyle Rittenhouse did with Ashleigh Banfield and some of the reactions to the interview. Maybe you will subscribe to my channel. If you already subscribed, thank you. Nothing encourages me more than your subscription. In today's video, I will share a rundown of questions Kyle Rittenhouse faced during Ashleigh Banfield interview. So I watched the interview Kyle Rittenhouse did with Ashleigh Banfield. I kind of had a reaction. I watched her shows a lot and I kind of liked her, but not this one. And I immediately left a message. And then I'll show you. Hey Ashleigh, I watched a lot of your shows and liked them, but you pushed me off a little bit on this one. I feel there was too much digging. That's the main problem I had. Not so kind for a young man who just went through so much. I was trying to be subtle, so I said, but you do have some interesting questions that nobody else asked. And then that's sincere too. I did hear a few questions that are interesting to me, and it seems nobody else has asked those questions. So I left this comment without looking anybody else's comments. But after that, I decided to read some of other people's comments. I probably read about 50 of them. I have to see, oh boy, did all of them agree with me? They all kind of have same reaction, same kind of feeling that she was digging too much. It was not fair for Kyle. I think in the beginning of the interview, her digging was not obvious, but start at 11 minutes, start with the question about FBI. Let's watch the question she asked about the FBI.
About the police, I think you mentioned on Tucker that the FBI is aware of the threats that have come in. But then you had an interesting reaction about the FBI, and to some it sounded political, like you don't agree with the FBI.
No. What I said is, Tucker asked me, do you think the government is going to help protect you? And I said, I hope so. But we all know how the FBI works, and I was referring to the FBI drone they were flying surveilling on U.S. citizens.
But you don't have a lot of confidence in the FBI looking after your well-being?
I couldn't tell you. Like I said on Tucker, I hope so, but I don't know. Do
you have a political feel? I mean, listen, the FBI has become a political football like so many things in our society right now. Lots of people during the Trump era were very anti-FBI, others very pro. Did some of that seep into your feeling at all, the pro and anti-FBI feelings?
No, like I was 17, I couldn't even vote, so I didn't really pay much attention to those type of politics.
Right there, I feel the fingernail digging a little bit into the skin of somebody. By her probing questions, I feel very likely Kyle can see something that incriminates him. As the interview goes on, she's digging more and more. It's so hard to watch. It's just painful to watch. You can literally feel somebody's fingernail going deep into somebody's skin. Here are her questions about him bringing AR-15 with him on August 25th, 2020. She keeps asking, be specific, give me more, describe it. Doesn't eat away at you. It's just so hard to watch.
Was that powerful? Had you fired a weapon before and seen anything like this before? Were you fluid and comfortable with a weapon like that?
That rifle was the only weapon I was legally allowed to have. I've shot it before, and a gun is a gun. It's still got to do the same thing. It fires a bullet.
Some don't. Some do. I mean, high-powered weapons can do a lot more damage than say, a pistol. But are you affected at all by the incident itself, the pulling the trigger and seeing the result of pulling the trigger and one man dying, another man dying, and another man being severely injured? You had to have seen what happened.
Look, I have nightmares from being attacked. I remember having to defend myself, and it's something that keeps me up at night.
Tell me a little more about that.
Like I said earlier, it's something that I live with, of having to take somebody's life and defend myself.
So when you have those nightmares, what do they look like? What do they sound like? What's happening in your nightmares?
It's just reliving the events of what happened.
But be more specific.
I'll wake up in like a cold sweat, reliving being attacked and chased, and that night of what happened to me.
And do you ever have the same kinds of nightmares about the deaths of those men and the injury to the third man?
I have, not really, but I have nightmares of them killing me if I didn't defend myself.
What do you think of when you think of? It's a lot for a 17, now 18-year-old man to process, taking the lives of people, humans, real men with real families. Do you think much about it? Do you stop down and ponder the lives lost, the families left behind, or are you not there yet?
I was forced to defend myself, and I think about that every day if they never attacked me.
But it doesn't eat away at you.
It does bother me. Nobody ever wants to have to kill somebody, but I was forced to defend myself.
Here you go. She kept asking, be more specific. Tell me about that. How do you feel about one man die, another, and a certain one injured? She keeps talking about Kyle killed 2 people. I'm just so relieved at the end that her questions didn't trigger another panic attack for Kyle. You can tell his voice and his breathing changed. Fortunately, he didn't go into a panic attack, and he started to repeat what he already stated and was able to end the question. Here is the moment for the first time Kyle started to not answering question.
If you had a message for the families of those men, what would it be?
I'm not sure. I don't know how I can answer that right now, because there's pending civil lawsuits that I believe are going to be filed.
So you would be able to answer? Do you have a feeling one way or the other, but you can't answer because of civil litigation?
I'm not going to answer that question right now.
Okay, understand.
This is also the point Kyle started to look to the side. I think that's probably where his therapist or his mom or somebody who is with him, he was kind of looking maybe to see if that's the time he should stand up and leave, I think. He realized this interviewer will keep digging without considering how he feels. To me, it feels kind of too greedy for ratings. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's just my opinion. And next, it really got even worse. She asked a question that she probably should ask the Supreme Court Justice. Even Supreme Court Justice probably couldn't answer that question. So let's listen.
How do you feel about AR-15s now?
I believe everybody has the right to own firearms, but I don't know.
Without question, they have the right. But the feelings, like, do you? Some people might say, I never want to touch the gun again. Some people will say, I absolutely will touch that gun again. It hasn't affected me in that way.
Like I said, it's people's rights to own firearms if they want to.
Right. Under Wisconsin law, you were within your right.
Yes.
The jury decided. It's clear cut. Under other states, it may not have gone like that because the law is different. There's a duty to retreat. Other elements of the law may not have been met.
I did retreat in Wisconsin, and I don't know the other laws of other states. I just know I was charged in Wisconsin, and I defended myself.
And the certain laws, and the certain laws in Wisconsin certainly were in your favor in this particular case, and that may be very well why the jury voted the way they did. In other states, that might not have happened. Are those other states wrong?
I don't know the states for other law, but it was self-defense around the board.
Here you go. Are all other states wrong? I mean, that's probably a question for Supreme Court Justice, not for somebody who just went through a trial. Even if he gives an answer, I don't think she will accept it. She will keep asking questions.
When we come back after the break, other questions from our social media users, including the racial component of this. Even though the 3 people who were killed or injured in this case were white, Kyle is white, it is still, without question, still a racial story. Well, you know that so many people have made this story about race. It was a protest, with Black Lives Matter because of the shooting of Jacob Blake. The incident itself that involved you included all white people, and yet it is still hanging over this case, the racial component of it. With that in mind, I have a question for you from one of our viewers. His name is James, and James asks this. Do you think that a black man would have been acquitted of the same charges?
Here you go. Amazing. She mentioned that all the three persons who were impacted were white men, but there is somehow still a racial issue in this case. That's just unbelievable. That's exactly how this self-defense case turned into a racial case. People can make theories all day long. How can you know what's the result if he is black? Because he's white. You do not know what's the result if he's black. There is no meaning of that kind of theory.
And I'll do one more on James's question and take you back before getting to trial. Many people have said publicly that they don't think a black person would have made it off the street that night, that they would have been shot by protesters, by police, by anybody, but they wouldn't even have been afforded the luxury of a trial. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Again, unbelievable. She said that a black person would not make to the street. The black person would be killed on the street that night. That's just unbelievable. There were many black people that night on the street. In fact, there was a black person who ran after Kyle and he kicked Kyle in the head. Thanks God, Kyle shot at him but missed. Imagine if Kyle shot him and just as the other two person, he died, this whole case will be completely turned into a racial injustice case. It has nothing to do with race, just like Kyle said. I think that's the best statement he made. Kyle Rittenhouse was not on trial. The right to self-defense was on trial. It has nothing to do with race or political views. The next question is equally unbelievable. She asked him a question as if Kyle Rittenhouse was the leader, was the mastermind behind the BLM. What would he want for the movement to move forward? Because Kyle said in Tucker Carlson's show that he supported BLM, he has to come up with an answer for that.
To Tucker Carlson that you support the Black Lives Matter movement. I think a lot of people might have been surprised by that. If they'd made up their minds about you, they were very surprised by that. What do you want for the Black Lives Matter movement?
I support everybody's right to peacefully protest and demonstrate. And like I said, I support the right to protest and not burn down American cities.
But what would you want for the movement? What would you like to see for that movement as they progress, in society?
Like I said, I support the right to protest and assemble. And I believe everybody has a right to protest for change. No matter what their change wants to be, everybody has a right to protest.
So that's a rundown of the digging questions Ashleigh Banfield had with Kyle Rittenhouse. And some of the other viewers had the same reactions as I did. And one of them, the viewers, is concerned that Kyle Rittenhouse has probably already forgot his attorney's advice of saying no to people. She probably thinks he shouldn't take this interview or should not take further interviews in the future in case he made something that incriminated himself. I don't know how the Tucker Carlson's interview happened, but I have a suspicion this interview is actually secured through his attorney, Mark Richards. Here is the interview Ashleigh Banfield did with Mr. Richards. It seems either Mr. Richards himself or his wife had some kind of professional interactions with Ashleigh Banfield. That's how she requested this interview through Mark Richards. Here you go.
that reason, I'm going to ask you to ask your client to do an interview with me as soon as he's finished with that first one that he said he'd do. I think you would be well served to do a non-biased interview with your client. There are a lot of people who probably should see the sides of Kyle that they maybe don't know. You know, that's just my pitch. One last question.
I'd like to thank my team. You know, and the reason I came on here is Joellen told me I had to.
Yeah, but Joellen and I go back a long way. So
Corey,
I'm glad she was able to persuade you.
She said I had to, and she meant a lot to the team. She really helped with Kyle's family. My co-counsel, Corey Sharafacy, and when I say co, I mean that, he was an equal. And the investigators, Todd and Steve, who worked on the case. A lot of effort went into this case, the experts, and there was no one person was more important than the other, and I think that's the key to this case.
Well, you all really pulled it off. I do have this last question for you. And it comes to me when I listened to you earlier today when you mentioned, you had a comment that I thought really stood out. And you said, I personally don't like people carrying AR-15s around. So I want to craft this question as gently and as respectfully as possible. There is the law in Wisconsin that this jury decided your client was within the law. He perceived to have his life threatened and he reacted in self-defense. That's the law. Not every state has that. Many don't have the non-duty to retreat. Lots of states are quite different. And then there was the whole notion that 2 men are dead because one had a plastic bag and then the other one had a skateboard. And so then there is the overall morality of it, which gets people out into the street. You know what I mean? Like, that's what people feel about the whole notion, is that 2 men are dead.
He had threatened to kill him. He had threatened to harm others. He had directly threatened to kill Kyle. He said, if I get you alone, I will effing kill you. That wasn't just Kyle saying that. That was another individual. And when he saw Kyle alone, they set up an ambush and he went after him. And when Kyle said friendly, he yelled, and this is on tape, you ain't going to do S mother effer. And, it wasn't the bag. Kyle retreated. He ran from Joseph Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum continued to chase him. And, I've said throughout this, why was Joseph Rosenbaum chasing him? He was going to do grievous harm, if not kill Kyle. The tape's showing right there. I see it. And, Kyle was put in a bad position by some bad people. And this is the result, a jury trial 15 months later.
Well, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to, talk through a lot of these elements with me. And I reiterate the request to be able to talk to your client as well. I hope you'll be able to ask him on our behalf if I can interview him next week.
Sounds good.
Here you go. That's how I believe this interview is actually secured through his attorney, Mark Richards. Obviously, this Ashleigh Banfield fully exploited the opportunity with some really digging questions. I don't blame you if after watching the trial, Kyle Rittenhouse has grown on you. Unfortunately, I feel at this point he is still in danger because of the trial, and also because all these opportunities that might turn sour on him. If he's my own son, I would be really concerned. I just hope he is really surrounded by strong and wise people to protect him. I wish the rest of his life he wouldn't experience anything even close to something like this. One time of this kind of experience is enough. Actually, it is Thanksgiving today. I wish everyone happy Thanksgiving and see you in next video.